Welcome to She Chose Joy, where we discuss all things love, wellness, and joy. I'm your host, Melanie Foote-Davis, also known as the Self-Love Cultivator. Our guest today, I'm super excited and thrilled to introduce you to and to share her with you. Her name is Monique Manigault. She's a life and business strategist, an author, a powerful speaker, and an unrelenting teacher. With nearly 20 years of experience as a New York attorney, Monique has advised, educated, and assisted her clients in building businesses at all levels, from startups to multi-million-dollar companies. Bred from an entrepreneurial family, this serial entrepreneur has honed into the key strategies that move businesses forward and propels exponential growth. In addition to leading workshops, retreats, and speaking internationally, Monique maintains a private coaching practice, working one-on-one with her business and life clients, coaching them on everything from leveraging current relationships to overcoming challenges that are blocking their growth. Monique is a compelling speaker with an extraordinary story of defying the odds. She has a unique ability to touch people, and using her own life story, she shows others what is possible to achieve in their own lives. Using all that she has learned along the way, she taps into people's passions and desires to support them in reaching their ultimate goals, both in business and in life. And additionally, Monique has a nationally syndicated television show called Women on the Move. So I am more than excited to share with you my dear sister friend, Monique Manigault. Monique, welcome to She Chose Joy.
Thank you so much, Melanie. I am so excited to be able to be a part of your podcast today. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm super thrilled to have you here. Like, this journey has been, one of the things you were always talking to me about was emerging.
Yes, emerging.
Emerging. And so this podcast has really been a joy. Like, this has been a really incredible part of my new journey. And I am super excited to share it with you.
Well, thank you so much. And I'm so excited to be able to be here. It literally, my heart sings to be able to be here with you today.
Ooh, they need it. They need. I think I'm just going to create my own gift where I'm placing my hand over my heart, because there's so many moments in my life where my heart sings too, and so I just totally appreciate that you said that.
Oh,
Thank you.
of course.
Mm-hmm. So before I get all caught up in all my woo-ness, let's just dive in. There are so many amazing things that I really appreciate about the way you show up in the world. That it could just be several episodes just based on you and your life, but for today, I really wanted to just explore some of the many ways that you've made so many shifts and pivots in your life, and each time that you have, you were gifted something beautiful. And I remember there was a time when you were taking a vacation quite frequently. I'll let you just tell a little bit about that.
Yeah, so probably I would say 2 or 3 years ago it was. I always travel. I always travel a lot. But what most people really didn't get was that when I would travel to lots of great places, I really wasn't there so much to enjoy it. I was there working. And so, although, if you take a snapshot of my life, it shows me all over the place. It wasn't from a place of having enjoyment in it or experiencing it or even being able to venture into a lot of it. I remember um, there was a time where when I would speak and I said, if I don't do anything else in a city, I will make sure that I see one of the most memorable, or moving things it is to see in that city before I get back to the airport, because I just never spent that much time. I would come in for the event, speak, and then I would go right out. And so really what happened, and now that I actually think about it, there are specific moments in my life. I think that this current moment that we're in will be a significant moment in that way, that most of us will have in common. Many of us will have in common. But when I look at over the course of my life, and I look at when there was tremendous, tremendous levels of shifting in my life, one of the common factors, one of the common factors for sure, was that I was on the other side of experiencing significant deaths in my life and in my family. And that's like, I can come on a whole nother day to talk about that and the power of that. But I've experienced tremendous loss in my life, of family members. And it is just part of my life story. When the story is written about my life, a main character in it will be death. I know that from my life experience with it, and the experience of losing so many people. So what happened was I had just gone through probably about maybe losing 15 family members in 18 months or something like that. And one of the things that death always reminds me of, and it's such a great it's such a great initiator of it, and that is, it's a reminder of living. It's a reminder of living. And oftentimes we get so caught up in just, doing the things that we're required to do in life, and we miss out on living. And so it was after many, many deaths in my family, one of them being one of my sisters. And I had just decided that I was going to go to another level of living. And that can show up and look differently in lots of different ways. But for me, because I hadn't taken a vacation since before the Great Recession, so it was literally at the time like 13 years or so, I hadn't taken a vacation. I knew that part of my living and part of what I needed to do for me was to pour and to give back to me. And although for some people a vacation every 30 days might seem excessive, it was just what the doctor ordered for my healing and for my wholeness and my wellness at the time.
Yeah, that's a lot. And I remember I met you around the time when you had, just moved past all of those, experiencing
Sure.
so many deaths, and by the time I met you, you had made the decision that you were going to vacation every 30 days. And that really just lit my fire because, of course, one of the things that really matters to me is reminding all of us, including myself, to really pour into ourselves and make sure we're taking care. And that whole work, 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 this doesn't really align with, what I believe in. So my heart just oozed like with compassion for what you had been through,
Yeah.
but also with joy for you choosing you in such a powerful way.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that probably does seem excessive to some and quite radical.
Right.
But then there's also somebody out there that's like, wait, hold up. how can I get on this vacation train,
Right.
right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And it was
Yeah.
specifically what I needed for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's, and I remember now that I'm going back to it, I remember like people kind of looking at me like, what? Like, what? And I'm sure for many people, they were like counting it in their head, the amount of money, they
Mm-hmm.
had made it into a money thing. And for me, it wasn't a money thing at all. It wasn't about that. And, I didn't, these trips were not like all lavish trips on the Mediterranean. Some were just like going to a town nearby or now I live in New York. So, I mean, that's fabulous in and of itself. But,
Mm-hmm.
being able to go somewhere that might just be a few hours away and to just be there for a few days. And then what I also had to like force myself to do was to make sure that I did not work for at least a minimum of 2 days while I was wherever I was, which probably is the biggest feat for me, because the work that I do, the different, because I have lots of different jobs, but the work that I do is so infused and ingrained into my being
Mm-hmm.
that it's almost impossible to completely turn it off.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
definitely understand that because it doesn't feel like work,
Right.
in a sense.
Yeah.
And the thing, I guess, basically, would you say that the ultimate theme of it all was being intentional about what you were choosing and how you were choosing? And so in the past, you may have defaulted to work, and that's something you naturally did, had been almost programmed to do in a sense.
Yep. Yep.
And now you were choosing something different. And it was polar opposite in a way to how you had been living. And yeah, like you saying that death is a great initiator, that was really powerful. I've
Yeah.
heard you talk about it many times, but I hadn't, like, for some reason it clicked differently when you
Sure.
said that today, in terms of
Yeah.
reminding you to live. And like, we're really in a really difficult time right now. And somewhere, even in the midst of that, it's important for us to live. And it's important for us to still make sure we're taking care of ourselves so that we can be able to be on the ground doing what's necessary to make change. And just for the sake of those listening, at the time of this recording, um, the world is at a state of unrest. Like, not only are we experiencing the pandemic from COVID-19, but there's protesting going on because of, the inequality and social injustice that's taking place with George Floyd and many others. So just so that you all can put that in context, what we were talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, it is a great initiator, and we really do need to remember to live as we fight for our lives. Like, we need to find a way to actually experience life as we do it.
Well, the other thing is, I would say you mentioned that it's intention, and obviously, of course, intention was certainly a big part of it. But I,
Mm-hmm.
I would say it was me choosing joy.
Mm-hmm.
It was me choosing joy. The deaths were certainly a tremendous part of what was being experienced and what had been experienced. But on top of that, I also had my niece, who I raised, had a brain injury in the midst of all of this. And so she was recovering from that. And so there were just levels on levels on levels of, things that I had to contend with. And I was in such a space of just sadness and pain, really
Mm-hmm.
sadness is what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And so that trip, and I remember when I chose that trip, I remember it was like in the midst of things that, granted, my niece was better. But my niece is actually still recovering now. And she was better, but things definitely weren't perfect. And I was like, this is what I'm going to do. Like, I don't even care what it requires. It will just have to be figured out, because I know that in this moment, in time, this is what I need for me. This is what I need for me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know how clapping will translate on this mic, so my hands are moving in applause for making that powerful
Well,
choice.
thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, because I won't even go into the becauses. For so many reasons, I know that was a big decision.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And then somewhere along the road, you were doing that, and then there's this thing, this affinity you had, like this connection you have to Asia.
Yes. Yes. My other home. My other home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how did that happen?
So I have always been connected to Asia. I mean, I say that I'm like an Asian girl in a Black girl's body, and I've always been connected to Asia. Um, Growing up, my family owned a Chinese restaurant in Times Square and Herald Square in the middle of Manhattan. Um, I hadn't been to Asia, but I just knew that my soul belonged in Asia. I've always known
Mm-hmm.
that. And I actually right now I'm sitting because I'm quarantined out of state. So I'm sitting in a home I have that with decorations, with furnishings that I purchased probably 15 years ago. 15, maybe 15, 16 years ago. And when I look around this house, I smile because the entire house is Asian. It's all Asian inspired. All of the
Mm-hmm.
images. So this is long before I went to Asia. I went to Asia for the first time in 2019. So that just shows you how deep it runs and has
Mm-hmm.
ran in me. And so, I don't know why. I don't know where it comes from. I don't know if it's a previous life. I don't know. But what I do know and what I've learned to know is not to fight with what it is that we feel, but just to move in it and to give ourselves more of it, right? Of the things that make us feel
Mm-hmm.
good. And so last year was when I was invited to go to Asia. Now, oddly enough, I had a trip that was semi-scheduled to we hadn't booked it yet. It was about to be booked to go to Asia, actually to go to Fiji. No, not Fiji. To go to Bali. To go to Bali. And I had this schedule. It was going to be a vacation for me, which was going to take place last March of last year, not this year. And last minute, it ended up falling through. The person was going to go, they fell through. And I was all ready to go to Bali. But then I thought, well, I first called friends of mine who travel there a lot and asked them if it was safe for me to go alone. And in the process of doing all of that, I received a separate invitation to actually go to Singapore. And so that begins the journey of me going to Asia. Yeah.
So you were already planning. I don't think
No,
I
you
knew
didn't know
that
that
part, that
part.
you were already planning to
I
go to
was already
Bali.
the exact dates. The exact dates were already scheduled.
So Asia was calling you in some way, shape, or form. You were going to get
Asia
there,
was going
right?
to get me there one way or the other. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so you're scheduled to go to Bali. That didn't go
Yep.
through,
Yep.
right? And then you get an invitation to go to Singapore
Yes.
for the exact same dates.
For the exact same dates.
Say more about that.
So I had actually so funny. Okay, if you really want to know it, let me give you the goods. If you really want the
You
goods,
know I
I'm gonna
do.
give you the
You
goods.
know I do.
So actually, what happened was I had the original dates to go to Bali with someone I was dating. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
that's who was going to go with me to Bali. that person that I was dating decided that they didn't want to go. It was too far. It was too far for them to go. They didn't want to go that far for a short period of time. And so that totally fell through. Totally fell through. And as I'm figuring out, am I going to go to Bali by myself? In comes a message from someone that I used to date, from someone I dated like maybe a year before. And it was a message, like a Facebook message. And basically it said, now we hadn't spoken in over a year, but pretty much this is what it said. I'm in Asia. Please come to Asia.
I'm just going to say, okay, listen. So again, so even though I knew parts of this, I never knew that was exactly how I came. I knew it was through an ex. And so here it's just come to Asia. So I don't know what Melanie would have done, how I would have responded. So what made you say yes?
Well, it was simple. What made me say yes was that I already knew I was supposed to be in Asia. Yeah, I already knew. I already knew. My soul already told me I was supposed to be in Asia. And the reality is, he went on to tell me that now, okay, so what happened was about a year before, he was supposed to go there to work. And we were dating then. And so he asked me to go with him, to come with him to Asia. So it was a year before. And then we stopped dating, and he never went. So what happened was when he ended up going the following year, he said, you love Asia. Like, you are supposed to be here. Please come and meet me here. And literally I ran. I think he told me on Friday. I think I was there by Tuesday or Monday.
Yeah, that is so cool. And I know some people are like, what? But no, it is so cool. Like and then you get there, you go for you're planning to go with one person. You get there, you go and end up going through another person, and then you just fall in love. And the next thing I know, you're like, oh, Melanie, I'm planning to work from Asia. I'm going to just live here for parts of the year and just do business from here. And I'm at home going, what? I'm missing something here. Like, how did she get to Asia? And now she's doing business there, right? Yeah, because actually I was even going to come to a retreat you were going to do there this past March.
Yes. Well, we started doing events there. We started doing events in Asia.
Yeah. And you get there and you fall in love. How did you get from there to deciding to stay and do business? Because you didn't come home right away after that.
So I went initially for about 5 or 6 days. And you see, you're getting the real goods. When I tell a story, we don't have all these details. But yeah, so I went for about a week. I went for a week, and he told me not to go back, to just stay. Like, don't go back, which sound real good to me, was working well for me because I get to see more. But I had to come back because I actually had my niece's graduations and all that stuff. So I came back, and then I immediately turned around and went back for about another 2 months. So I just knew. I mean, just like he knew. I mean, it's odd that he knew. Just like he knew, I knew that I was supposed to be there. Now, he knew it because of this love that I've had for it, that obviously I did a really good job of conveying to him. But once I got there, and I have heard actually now quite many people say it, there is something different about Asia. The energy is different. Of course, people are different. The world is different. I'm a yogi. Actually, I was supposed to spend a few months this spring in India getting my yoga certification, because that is where yoga began. That is where meditation
Mm-hmm.
began. You know what I mean? It's just the
Mm-hmm.
birthplace of so many places and so many practices that are part of my life for sure. I kind of came here with them being part of my life. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just knew it was home. I just knew it was home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, how intuition it speaks to us in many different ways. Like some of us get it visually, some of us get it
Sure. Yeah.
audibly, some of it have, you feel a sensation, a physical sensation of your body, and then sometimes it's this inner
Yes.
knowing that it just can't be explained. No words can be wrapped around it, but you just know with every fiber
Yeah.
of your being. And it sounds like that's kind of how this
Yeah,
was
I knew
for
that I
you.
belonged there, that I was supposed to be there,
Hmm.
um, and that it would be very significant to me and for me in my life. Yeah,
Yeah. And that, like, it goes back to what you said earlier about not fighting what you feel, you know?
definitely. And then once I was there and got a little bit of lay of the land, right? So, I mean, Asia is a very big continent, tons of different countries. When I went the first time, primarily I was in Singapore and Thailand. And so, as soon as I kind of, got my footing, of course, business and work is what would be next because it's such a big
Hmm.
part, of everything that I do. And
Hmm.
the work that I do, working with entrepreneurs and individuals on growing their life and their business at top speed, that's everywhere, right? I mean, we already have clients all over the globe. And so the ability for me to be able to do that in person was just an extension of the work that we
Hmm.
do, as I'm on tour anyway. And so we just started to book dates while we were there. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm thinking about a conversation that we had before when you were talking about how your gifts are often disguised. And so even though you knew Asia was calling you, you knew that that was a place to be. Um, my guess is that you didn't know that that's where you're going to end up doing business from in terms of like living there for parts of the year.
Well, I did not know that either, you know. I think
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
one of the great gifts that I have is the ability to be open to so much.
mm-hmm,
And so, I kind of move through life looking for the next sign that will lead it the way to me, right? To my next place and space of being.
mm-hmm,
And so it just ended up being that. But it could, in a few months end up me being in Greece somewhere because I'm open to the
mm-hmm,
possibilities for the continual
mm-hmm,
transformation of my life. Um which is interesting, and it's not always so easy, right? It's not always so easy,
mm-hmm.
but I think it's essential for you to be able to walk in the fullness of your gifts. And so what you're referring to is that we were talking about um the gift of Asia showing up through someone I used to date, and how for
Mm-hmm.
many people they would have never moved forward with that because of from the way that it came. And
Mm-hmm.
I know, through my life's experience, is that your blessings can show up in all sorts of disguises. And if you're not
Absolutely.
open to what could be on the other side for you, you may very well lose and miss out on what is supposed to be the very blessing that you've been praying for.
Yeah, I'm so glad you shared that part of it. Is because one of the things that, I've been practicing is being
Mm-hmm.
detached from how things come, who they come through, and where they show up, because that attachment to it is a huge barrier for whatever is next in any judgment I have around that attachment, that person, that all of those different things. But we just never know who, God's going to use to bless us.
Absolutely.
So I'm really glad you said that. Like, we just really
We
don't
so don't
know.
know. Yeah. And
And
we don't
just,
know what the
mm-hmm,
rest of that is going to look like. I can give you a great example. Go ahead. Do you want to say something? Oh,
no, go
I was
ahead.
going to
Go ahead,
say
by all
that
means.
a great example of it is that this year for 2020, I had, very particular plans, as we all did, right? I mean, for what now 2020 is becoming,
Mm-hmm.
we've all had lots of different plans. And one of my really big plans was us being on tour all over the world, and running our retreats at different places and on different continents and all these wonderful, great things. And at the end of last year, someone entered my life who wanted for us to do lots of other things. When I say other things, I mean be married, maybe have a child, all these other things that were not in the realm of my view on my own, right?
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't looking for that. I wasn't, I was very focused, laser focused on what my goals were. And what he was offering it did not represent that for me, right? It was just it was almost like I was all the way on the right side of the spectrum. He was all the way on the left side of the spectrum. And I
Mm-hmm.
smile about it now because of what 2020 really ended up being. But although it wasn't what I was anticipating or expecting or planning, I opened myself up to what that possibility would be, what that might look like for
Mm-hmm.
me, right? And being open to that, and was able to, not totally, of course, abandon what my plan was, although to a large degree, in some ways, parts of it are certainly abandoned now. But to be open
Mm-hmm.
to the possibilities and the gifts and the blessings that would come from a relationship, uh, that was being offered to me at the time, which was earlier this year. And
Mm-hmm.
to be open to that, there would be certain people who would just be closed to all of it. They wouldn't want any parts of it. This is what I'm doing. My business is booming. I'm going to focus on that. That's all that matters. Um, but I know, and I live my life differently. And so I am mindful of the different aspects of life, right? Business life is only one part of life. And so being open to the possibility of something different that doesn't look like even what my plan might be or what my plan
Mm-hmm.
um, is in and of itself very powerful. In and of itself is very powerful.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's huge because I'm just gonna go ahead and be honest. I probably would have been one who would have been resisting that one. Like, absolutely not. You're just trying to
Yeah.
disrupt all these things. I have this vision, and here you come. You're just
Yes.
this is a
Yes. Those
distraction.
are all the words. Those are all the
And
words.
I might have even used you as an excuse. And Monique's been talking to me about my distractions.
That's right. That's right. Throw me in there.
But yeah, I probably would have. I mean, of course, I won't know until the
Sure.
situation occurs
Of
in my
course.
life in that way. So we can always say what we would have done until it's
Yes.
actually happening
Yes.
for us, right? But my what I know historically what Melanie probably would have done. And that would have been fighting that one tooth and nail. Like, okay, I don't know how we're going to do this. Let's talk about this compromise, all of those things. But you being open to it. Yeah. Thanks for sharing, because I'm going to sit with that one,
Sure, you're
a
welcome.
little
But and
differently.
look at this and listen to this.
Yeah.
You know, look at what happened anyway. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm saying with that, what I
Mm-hmm.
mean by that is that all of those plans that, I could have been fighting tooth and nail for no longer even exist. They no
Mm-hmm.
longer even exist.
Yeah.
I am traveling the world in a house. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? I
Right.
will not be in Asia anytime soon. I will not be in Greece. I will not be in all the places that we have been planning on going. I'm supposed to be in Hawaii right now. I would not, I am now in none of those places. I am here still, and really able to show up in my own life in a very different way because of my presence in it
Mm-hmm.
in this way right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's interesting because sometimes we hold on and we kick and fight about the things that really, although they appear to matter in a very significant way, it can very easily shift to not mattering at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not mattering at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there is a
Yeah.
significant blessing in that. And so now when I think about that and I flash back, look at the story, I just smile. Based on what my plan was for 2020 and what is. And I stand in such gratitude for what it is. I don't wish I was somewhere
Mm-hmm.
else. I am exactly where I am supposed to be in this moment in time, doing exactly what it is that I am doing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when I spoke with you last week, you sound so at peace with where you were.
Yeah, I'm
You
so
know.
happy. I am so happy. I was on a training last night and I was sharing with them, we were talking about me being happy. And I said, I haven't been this happy since I was in Asia. And Asia for me is like a
Mm-hmm.
whole nother level of happy. It's not even like regular happy. It's like some, supernatural happy. And I have found that even
Mm.
though obviously this is not a happy time at this moment in America and across the world, because of the things that we're dealing with. However, you would never know that inside of my world. Inside of my world is
Mm-hmm.
just the most blissful, the most peaceful, the most restful place of my mind, body, and spirit right now. Yeah.
Mm. I
Yeah.
hear you. I'm just
It
sitting with that.
really is. It really, really is. And I know some people may not understand how they can both reside in the same place, in the same space.
Yeah, I get it. I actually was just having a conversation about that earlier today and earlier this week. Um, because of all these things that's going on, and here I am doing a She Chose
Mm-hmm.
Joy podcast, and and it's from that space that I had the capacity to have empathy and compassion for what's going on in the world and in my own life and all those things, and still find a space to find some peace
Absolutely.
within myself. And me, because that's directly tied to my me being
Sure.
whole and my wellness. And so it doesn't mean that I don't care. I
Mm-hmm.
absolutely care. And I absolutely um will be involved in some capacity. I'm just waiting for divine guidance on what that role
Sure.
is for me specifically. And in the meantime, it's important for me to take care of all of
Yeah.
me, so that I'll even have the strength, the capacity to, the mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical stamina to withstand whatever is next. And so I get to choose to
Yes.
be compassionate about that and live in my moments of joy and all of those things. Like it's not an either
Right.
or,
Yeah.
it's a both and.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, they absolutely both
Yeah.
can.
So I
They
can.
both can reside, and they have to. They
Mhm,
need to
mhm.
reside, right? Because we have to be
Yeah.
able to not only deal with what's going on in the world, but we have to be able to come and restore ourselves so that we're even in a place to be
Mhm.
able to do and be of assistance, as it relates to anything else moving forward. We have to be able to fill up our own selves first. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so in this season, I'm getting radical in my own self-care and just really taking higher
Yeah.
doses of it, if you will. Which sounds like, you're in a space where you're
Yes,
taking
for
care of
sure.
all
And
of
it's so
you.
interesting because it's like, in some ways,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I have more time. In some ways, I'm so busy and like I have
Mm-hmm.
no time. And it's a really odd, weird sort of balance. Um, but
Mm-hmm.
in the midst of it, I absolutely do that. And I take the time that I need for me. So, every morning, in the mornings are my mornings. I don't book any client sessions, I don't have any meetings. From like noon and
Mm-hmm.
before is all my time. Um, and that's really important to me because when I built my new life where I wasn't working all the time and literally was basically running a part-time business, um, I really built it to be able to run the business essentially no more than 12 hours at best a week. But because we have so many things going
Mm-hmm.
on, I still fill my time with other things, and we have some television shows and some other companies that are launching, and so I fill my time with that stuff. I still make sure that my mornings are mine and that no one puts anything on a schedule for the morning
Mm-hmm.
time, unless it's like some sort of emergency. Because when I get up, that's time for me to focus on my meditation. That's time for me to focus on my thinking, my mental wellness and my physical wellness. I'm an avid
Mm-hmm.
runner, and fortunately I've been quarantined in a place where the weather is wonderful and beautiful. So every morning I'm out running, and then that running turns into a walking meditation.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I make sure that before anybody else gets the stuff that they need, that I have what I need first, because that makes me better. That makes me better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm over here doing the
Oh,
happy dance for you.
thank you.
I'm doing my
Yeah.
cabbage patch. Like, ooh, ooh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
because that's a
sure.
powerful choice. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So this has been wonderful. And before you go, where can others connect with
Sure.
you?
You can connect with me um, on Instagram at Monique MNYC. You can also join our mailing list where we keep everybody updated on all of our stuff. That's at our main website, leverageupnow.com. And, you can also find me on Facebook. Yep, just my
Okay.
name,
And on Facebook is
Monique
your name.
Manigault.
Okay. Okay, awesome, awesome, awesome. And so I want to close with like one of your quotes, which is talking about the change of your environment and your perspective can change all areas of your mindset and thinking. And so that's something that I want to leave you all with to just meditate on. Just to think about that. Like the change of your environment and your perspective can change all areas of your mindset and your thinking. And that's a quote by our very own guest, Monique Manigault. What are some ways that you can change your environment or even shift your perspective
Yeah. So,
to make a difference in your life? Like just
oh, no,
leaving
no, no.
that
I was just
there.
going to
Okay, I'm sorry.
say,
What were you going to
it
say?
can be as simple as going outside, depending on where you are. I guess in most places
Mm-hmm.
now in the US, it's warm enough to go outside, and being able to do that and just spend time alone. I had a client who was, experiencing just not feeling so great. And she said, she wanted to be away from the people in her home. And I said, well, have you been out on a walk? And she's like, no. I said, well, you've been in the house for months and you haven't even gone out for a walk? She said, no, I didn't even think about it. And so now she's integrated it, and it just
Mm-hmm.
helps her to see everything so much better and so much clearer. And, be able to spend
Mm-hmm.
time with those whom she lives with and on a much higher, if you will. And it's just changed everything for her.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I can see that because every space has its own
absolutely.
energy, and being able to get out and get some fresh air and remove yourself from the environment where you're taking in everybody else's energy can really make a
Huge.
huge difference. A huge
Absolutely.
difference. Yeah, I know my days are different when I take a walk and get some fresh air, or even just getting up out of a chair or whatever and moving in any way, like it shifts things for us. So sometimes it's the simple shift in our environment, or even the position, like where a chair is placed in the room, and
Absolutely.
all of those different things. But yeah, so just
Baby
little like
steps.
baby steps that can make a
Definitely.
huge difference. So Miss Monique, I'm so
Thank you
glad to
so
have
much
you
for having
on.
me, Miss Melanie.
And so I have to ask you, I always ask, what are you grateful for in this moment? And I ask that because I believe that gratitude and appreciation are partners with joy.
Yeah, what am I grateful for? In this moment, I am grateful for my joy. I'm grateful for my joy.
Mm,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah,
And that's
yeah,
really,
awesome.
that's really good enough for me, because there's been so many
Hmm.
moments, as I've shared with you all at the beginning, where it just couldn't be found. So I'm happy for my joy.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm grateful that you actually shared all of those things with us, because so many times people look at someone's life and they think, oh, well, their life is perfect, and we romanticize what somebody
Yeah,
else's life looks like. And, experiencing a loss is not easy on any level. And to lose,
yeah,
15 people in a short time frame is, I don't even want to put a label on it, but it's more than I would
sure.
ever want to
Yes.
imagine. And so for you to be able to still in that find a space for you to be able to make a sound decision on your own behalf
Yeah.
speaks
Yeah,
volumes.
definitely. Um, and, I want to share for those who might be listening, who may be in a similar place and space, and it may not be deaths. It just might be blow after blow after blow after blow in your life. And that is that joy will come again. And
Mm,
if you continue to put yourself in your best possible position to allow for a new season, because it's all about seasons, and life is lived in seasons. There's one coming out, there's another one coming
mhm,
in. If you put yourself in the best position so that when the next season moves, you can then move with it. You will be able to greet joy on the other side. Yeah.
Mm. Well, there you have it. There's nothing left for me to say.
Thank you again so much, Melanie, for having me.
Yeah. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you, Monique, for just sharing and dropping some wisdom on us and just sharing your heart with us.
Thank
I really
you.
appreciate you. Yes. And to the listeners,
And bring
that
me
was
back
good,
again. Bring
right?
me back again.
Thank you. You're more than welcome to come back. So now I don't have to ask. You've already just bring it on, bring it on, bring on
Well,
more
thank
joy,
you.
drop some more nuggets. Yeah, it's always a good time, always a good time. And so thank you all for joining us. And we will see you on the next episode of She Chose Joy.